on the agenda this evening, we will have the Rotary Toast given by Ray Aiken. Then I'm going to ask Ronnie, to give us a 5-minute summary of the rugby grand final coming up this weekend. Hopefully he will not have it weighted too much toward the Rabbitohs. And then we will have the first address this evening by our famous baker, Brigit, followed up by another brief address by Pete, and we'll wrap it up with the five-way test, hopefully around 7 o'clock. Before we get started, I'd like to just bring two things to your attention. First of all, as you are very much aware, we have been without a secretary since the 1st of July. And I'm very happy to announce that Pete Marzec has been appointed by the board and has volunteered to become our new club secretary. And as the president, I want you to know that I'm sure he'll do a great job, and I'm very grateful for him accepting that position. Secondly, next Monday, which is the 4th of October, we are originally scheduled to have a board meeting. But I've been doing some research this last week, and I found out that October 4th, to the day, our club was chartered 55 years ago on the 4th of October, 1966. So I thought that what we will do is we will sort of shift gears, and next week we're going to have a club birthday party. Now, I'm not quite sure what that entails, but what it does mean is that the board meeting for all you board members will be pushed to Thursday, the 7th, and on October the 4th, which is next Monday night, we will be having a club birthday party to celebrate 55 years of incorporation and service to King's Cross and Potts Point. So having said that, we will be circulating the invitation this week, but I wanted everybody to know what our thinking is, and that I think our birthday party is going to be a fun time among us, but more importantly, it's going to be a good remembrance of the history of the club, that we've been in service to the cross more than 50 years. Now, having said that, I'm going to call on another longtime Rotarian who gives his... Hello. I'm going to ask everyone if they would be kind enough to mute themselves. We're getting bleed in. And Ray, if you will unmute yourself.
Unmuted.
And please present the Rotary Toast that you normally do. And it's a pleasure to have you back online, just like it is when we're face to face, Ray.
Thank you, Thomas. The toast this evening is to the fastest growing club in the United States, the Rotary Club of Plano West, which is in Chicago, in Texas. In the past few years, since they've had a new president, the average age went from 67, it's now down to 50. They do an enormous amount of work. For example, during the summer holidays, summer school holidays, they provided 95,000 meals to children of the township. So the toast is to Piano West Rotary Club. They meet on Tuesdays at the Greek Club, the Greek restaurant. So it's the Rotary Club of Plano, Texas.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
I'll drink outside. I'll go and get it later.
Yeah. Plano is on the outskirts of Dallas, and it's a fast-growing community to the north of Dallas. So I'm not at all surprised that they have a very, very active Rotary Club.
There are 6 clubs in the area.
Thank you.
In the town.
Yeah, I was going to say it's actually a lot of people that live in Plano. I'm sure there's more than one club there, but 95,000 meals. Wow, that's impressive. Well, thank you, Ray. And Ron, are you online this evening?
Yeah.
Good. Wow. Look at that background.
I did that for you,
Fantastic.
like you asked me
Absolutely.
to do.
So could you give us a little rundown of your analysis and maybe even a preview of who you think is going to be the winner this weekend?
And the
Well,
odds.
From 1949, the year after my mother and father were married, St George beat Souths in a grand final. 1950, it was the other way around. South beat St George. 51, they beat Manly. 1952, they were beaten by 1 point by Western Suburbs. 54-55 under captain coach Jack Rayner, they beat Newtown. And then there was a 10-year non-grand final appearance. And in 65, they were runners-up to St George, 12 points to 8, where there is a current player now, the fullback, who is related to a player by the name of Kevin Longbottom, who played for the club for 3 years of my life, and that was 65, 66, 67, and then halfway through 68. And he scored 3 goals from halfway in the 65 grand final when they got beaten 12-8. But 67, 68, they beat Canterbury and Manly. 69, I was in the Sydney Eye Hospital, so I couldn't be there. They had 3 disallowed tries put against them, and Balmain beat them 11-2. And then 1970, Johnny Sattler got a busted jaw from the first tackle and stayed on the field and led the team to a 23-12 victory over Manly. And because of that season of the player of Eric Sims, the Rugby League the following year reduced the fullback and field goal kicking from 2 to 1 point. And it was, strangely enough, the halftime score for St George and Souths was 1-0 in favour of Souths. And the final score was 16-10. And then the 43-year drought was the drought appearances and that of Canterbury playing South. And South gave them a big hiding of 36-6. And now we've got the current game coming up this weekend. That's what I can tell you about my loyal club.
What are the odds this weekend?
Ronnie, I think it's amazing that you have such a grasp of the history of the game all in your head. I have a difficult time remembering what goes on yesterday, and you've got all of the scores and all of the history.
I've also been given gifts of the books and history on the club itself, you see. That's the only thing.
Well, Ron, I know that I hate to say that you're prejudiced, but do you have any thoughts about who's going to wind up the winner on Saturday?
Oh, of course, I'm one-eyed.
What odds?
That I haven't seen what the odds are, because Penrith have got 3 players out on injuries, they're saying, and actually another one's got in trouble with the police.
Oh, good.
On some sort of drug situation.
Do you think that's going to be enough to, in effect, disable Penrith from being competitive in the final?
I'm not going to pass any comment on that, because like when you're lucky enough to have the coach by the name of Wayne Bennett, that's tremendous advantage.
Yeah.
He's quite a coach, isn't he, Ronnie? How long has he been coaching rugby?
The only other 2 coaches that I'd rate up to his talent would be Clive Churchill and Jack Rayner, who are both passed away.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Ronnie, we'll all be watching this weekend and thinking about you. And next Monday night, since we're having a birthday party, we're going to come back and ask you for your observations about the game. You ready for that?
Certainly. I'll do that for you.
That'd be beautiful. And I'm hoping that next Monday and during the game, you'll have that backdrop because it looks fabulous.
All right, I'll leave it up here.
Well done.
Thanks, Ronnie. Okay, moving on. We've got this evening addresses by two members of our club talking about what they do in life and what they do professionally. We're going to be starting with someone who is very close to my heart in the sense that food is at the top of the list. And I'm always interested in someone who takes food and turns it not only into an art, but looks for perfection in doing it. Now, I don't know how many of you people out there are cooks, but bakers are someone who are special because they have a way of creating that is precise, exacting, and bakers are someone, to me, I'm just in awe of them because I'm a cook who's never followed a recipe in his life. And of course, baking is quite the opposite. So before, I remember when I first saw Brigit and saw her website. Brigit, bring me up to speed on this. It was baking against, what was the word that you had inserted in there?
It was saving the world from bad baking.
That's it, saving the world from bad baking. So I just love that. I just think that's fabulous. So I'm going to just keep quiet and let me say that I'm so grateful for you making the address this evening because we love your bread. And I'm always curious about how you do it and the thinking behind creating it. So Brigit, all over to you.
Thanks, Thomas, and thank you for the opportunity to tell you today what I do. I have to disappoint you though, because the Saving the World from Bad Baking is gone. It's no longer on the new website. But job talk, I have two jobs, kind of. Let's talk about the German consulate first to get it out of the way, because that is a job, whereas the baking is just my passion and doesn't really feel like a job or doesn't feel like work. So sometimes when I tell people I work at the German consulate, they think I'm in the kitchen there. I work in the kitchen. We have a canteen, which is not the case. I work in the passport and visa case management team. So we look after people who need Germans who need passports, or Germans who have children here who need passports, and Australian citizens and residents who want to go to Germany and need a visa. We've been closed during the whole lockdown, and you can only get a German passport if you are able to come in person, because we take fingerprints from everyone and they're in the passport. The Australians don't do that. You can still apply for Australian passport at the moment through Australia Post. I just want to urge everyone, because we know that with the German passports, as soon as the borders open, we will be flooded by applications and there won't be enough appointments and there will be a long delay. And it was in the paper, and we also got information at the consulate that the Australians are all holding back renewing their passports. So please check your passports, and if it is expired or about to expire, apply for a new one, because as soon as the borders are open, there will be so many applications, there will be a long backlog. So I work part-time at the German consulate, and it helps with my German language. Surprise, surprise. Everything is German. If you wouldn't look out the window and see the Opera House, you wouldn't even know you're in Australia. Everything is in German. The software, the calendars, the food in the kitchen. We have Nutella. We have, of course, lots of products from Aldi. And surprise, surprise, I met Chris and Ines through the German consulate at the Day of German Unity celebration, which is coming up next Sunday. The 3rd of October, is the Day of German Unity, when East Germany and West Germany reunited. But unfortunately, this year there is no celebration. It's been great at the consulate, but as I said, that's a job. But what's not a job, what's my passion, is my pastry. About 11 years ago, I retrained as a pastry chef, and I haven't worked a day since in pastry, because to me, it doesn't feel like work. this is my uniform. I love my uniform. So I thought I'll wear that tonight. And another thing you said, Thomas, I usually start my baking classes with, if you're a cook, you follow your heart because cooking is an art. If you're a baker, you follow the recipe because baking is science. There is a reason why the ingredients are put together the way they are. And it's not that easy to change recipes because you can only change one ingredient at a time. So you have to repeat and repeat and repeat until you kind of find something. So if people want to change recipes, they say, oh, I want to do this scone recipe. Can I use lemonade instead of milk? I'll say, well, look up a recipe with lemonade then. You can't just take one recipe, take the milk out, put the lemonade in. Normally it doesn't work like that. With the baking, I started baking cakes, lots of different cakes, high teas and waffles. I still do waffles for special occasions, but I initially focused on cakes. And then I gave up sugar because sugar is bad for you and I highly recommend you eat as little as possible. Of course, it's difficult to bake cakes when you give up sugar. So I kind of refocused on baking bread and teaching baking, especially bread. I teach an artisan technique that allows even beginners or especially beginners to produce amazing bread. I mean, I'm German, we grow up on bread, so it's wonderful to show people how you can take water, flour, yeast and salt and make an amazing bread. And that's actually what should be in a loaf. But the artisan technique takes like 18 to 24 hours. Whereas if you buy bread in the supermarket, there's no nutritional value in it. There's bread improver, there are preservatives, there are emulsifiers, sugars, fats, everything to give it flavor because it has to be produced quick. Well, with my artisan bread, I can say that at the Sydney Royal Fine Food Show, I won a gold and a bronze medal. And I teach this technique for my bread in my classes. However, my artisan bread, as much as I like it, more and more people try and stay away from gluten. And that's when I was kind of trying new recipes, looking through the internet and coming across some seed and nut breads. And I tried a few recipes and I refined and I tried again and I changed a few bits here and there. And then I gave my current super bread #1, the original, to one of my neighbors who's gluten intolerant. And a week later, she said, oh, Brigit, can you please make me another one? It's amazing. So I made her another one. And a week later, she said, can you make me another one? It's like, I pay you for it. So that was in November last year. And she still gets one loaf every week. She then gave it to a friend. Then another neighbor heard about it. She took a sandwich to her golf day. And then 6 of her golf friends contacted me and ordered some. So I went from literally one loaf a week for my neighbor and one for us ourselves to like 100 loaves a week. That was before lockdown. When coming up with a name, the question was like, how do we name it? And the bread is called super bread because it is super. It can do everything. It's like, it's high in protein, it's high in fiber, it's very healthy for you, and it's delicious, which is rare. It has only natural ingredients in it, healthy fats, there are no preservatives, no nasties. It's a little bit of maple syrup, but no sugar. It comes in 4 different varieties, with 3 have oats. I mentioned that earlier. 1 has no oats, so 1 is properly gluten-free, although oats don't contain the gluten that we know, but in Australia, oats officially are not gluten-free. The new kind of my first business was called Sugar Plum Bakery, but now it's called Better Bread because this bread is better for you. It's better for your health, and it's very popular. What else? Looking at the time. So just to kind of summarize it, I have 2 avenues where I work in. One is the teaching bread classes, and one is my super bread from the Better Breads brand. And I have 2 offers for the Rotary Club of King's Cross. One would be teaching a bread class for free and make people pay and then donate the money for a good cause, like use it as a fundraiser. Last month, I taught a Zoom class to 65 people. It's called a no knead bread. It only takes about half an hour on 2 consecutive days, one evening, one the next morning. The bread just rests, not much to do, creates amazing results with just a few little tweaks here and there. And the feedback was amazing. Feedback's always amazing. I never worry about my classes because the bread always turns out well. So I wanted to offer that. We charge people $50, we decide on a date, and then spread the word, put it on the district website, tell your friends, and then we do something with the money. We find a project first, and then I can offer that. And the second one is everyone for the next 3 weeks is welcome to try my bread, and you get a 20% discount for all orders. My website is ready. Let me share the screen. This is my new website. No, this is not my new website. It was just there.
Looks yummy.
It's there. If I choose one, why does it not? This is one of the things when you test it and it works. So there it is. So this is my new website, and these are all my products. My 4 breads. I also have the dry mix if people like to bake it themselves. I also have the tins, a mix, and my classes. The fresh loaves are only available for pickup and local delivery. Bondi Beach, North Bondi, Tamarama, Darling Point for $5 local delivery. Everything else is available via courier. The fresh loaves, unfortunately, not at the moment via courier delivery because during the pandemic, the lockdown, the delivery times are just too long, and I want the bread to arrive fresh. So for the next 3 weeks, you get 20% discount on all product orders. And I'll do it for 3 weeks because hopefully then the lockdown is over, because lots of you, I don't know exactly where you live, but you might not be able to do the 5-kilometer radius to come and pick up some bread from my house. I bake fresh every Thursday, and then in the afternoon, people come to my house and pick up the loaves while I'm not at the market. I will go back to the markets once the lockdowns have been lifted. If you want to order, you just put in Rotary into the checkout box when you get to the checkout, and it automatically takes 20% off. So I think that's it from me. Any questions?
Can't taste it, must be done.
Sorry?
We'll have to buy some to taste.
At the moment, yes, because I can't see you. If you would come to the market or later when we have a meeting in person again, I'm happy to bring in samples so everyone can try. And I'll tell you, at the markets, that works fantastically well. People who try, they buy, because it's the most amazing bread and it's the only one of its kind in the shops.
Which market is it?
I will start with Bondi Beach.
When is that on? When is that on?
Then at the moment, they don't have a date because on top of the lockdown, there was a fire just before lockdown.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
They haven't started yet, but I also will go to the vegan market. But at the moment, there's no date for the markets yet because everyone is just on hold to see how restrictions will ease.
Good. Maybe Paddington markets would be good for you.
Sorry?
Maybe Paddington markets would be good for you.
Yes, I could try those too. Yes, they usually require that you come every week. And that is quite limiting because then it's only one location. Whereas in Bondi, I can go once a month or twice a month.
Good. Sounds great.
Thank you. Dale?
Just to let everybody know, Thomas and I have been having this bread now for maybe about 4 loaves, and it is the most delicious thing you can ever imagine. So take it from us, it really is worth trying. If it would help anybody to pick it up from us, being in Darling Point like Ray or Warwick or Ken, we're happy to use this as a central depot. If you like orders, maybe that will work for a few weeks until the markets are open.
Is it sliced or do you need to slice it yourself?
Well, on special request, I do slice for people, but normally people buy the whole loaf and slice it themselves.
Yeah, good.
It also works really well frozen. So whole thing loaf sliced and then put in the freezer, and you can take out slice for slice, put it in the toaster, and the whole kitchen smells like freshly baked bread.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm happy to second what Dale said. We've been having it, and we've had it in the freezer and did exactly what Brigit just said, and it works wonders. Perfect.
Yeah.
Delicious,
Yes.
really delicious.
Ines is kind of one
And
of
we
my
try and
customers
make
from the early days.
Brigit, we try and make ours last. And what I would like to say, that it really lasts very well. It doesn't go stale.
No,
And in
because
fact, you know, it'll still taste good 2 weeks later.
yes, because it's only seeds and nuts. There's nothing else that can go stale. Like a normal bread goes stale because of the flour. But seeds and nuts, if you have those yourself and eat seeds and nuts, they can't go stale really. And there's nothing else in there.
Good.
Warwick.
Hey, Brigit, do you have a quantity that you can only make per week, or can you increase the volume if you need to? Or
My home oven makes 12 per load. But when I go to the market, I use a commercial kitchen, and I'm looking at the moment at a bigger kitchen. Because like with the 100 loaves for the markets, like what I did just before lockdown, it's kind of like a 3-day with an oven that takes 25 at a time. The loaves also, the seeds and nuts are activated, so they rest between 6 and 12 hours, and they get baked in the tin and then without the tin, so they have a really nice crust. But I'm looking at a bigger kitchen because I'm very confident that the numbers will go up once I start again going to the markets and doing more market than one. And now that the website is ready and people can order through the website, I need a bigger kitchen, yes. And at some point, I will have my own kitchen.
Right.
very good.
Do you have a insurance policy?
Yes, I do.
Brigit, I want to thank you for this wonderful presentation. I just really have 2 comments. The first is, and no pun intended, I'm just nuts about your bread. I want you to know that your bread has never made it as far as the freezer, because it's on ration for 1 slice a day, usually 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's fabulous with tea, coffee, whatever. And secondly, we're certainly as a club going to take you up on the teaching in bread class. I think that's a fabulous idea. It will probably not be until after the first of the year, but we will definitely find schedule an opportunity to do that. I think it would be a fun thing. And I think we can get a lot of people, not just our club members, who would be participants. And of course, that's the idea, isn't it? To spread the word.
And that's the easy thing with Zoom. You can have up to 100 people, even with the free version. So
absolutely. And lastly, Brigit, I'm working hard to hopefully put together a Christmas presentation. And if we can do it on a face-to-face, we certainly would like to include your grandmother's waffles. And I think she would be so happy. Happy
to do that. I mean, that part of the initial business, like corporate waffle events, is not going to happen ever again, because people don't work in an office anymore. And if they do, there's only like a handful. So I'm happy to have any opportunity to bake waffles. Sure.
Thomas, can I just ask one more question? It's bugging me. Why would you run classes to teach people how to do what you do and put yourself out of business?
It's a different bread. I'm not teaching my seed and nut bread. I'm teaching artisan bread, which is made with flour, water, salt, and yeast.
So we don't find out the ingredients in your bread.
The ingredients itself are on my website, because that's like allergens and other reasons. So you can even buy the dry mix. So you know what's in it, but it's still, you don't know the exact quantities, and it's still, you don't know how to make it. In the end, like it's a process. And
okay, good on you. I understand that. Thank you.
Brigit, once again, thanks so much. Just as an aside, on October 3rd, the day that the wall came down, I remember very clearly I was in Cologne and I went to Mass in the cathedral, and it was a touching and moving ceremony. I'll never forget it. It was really something. So Unification Day means a lot to me. It's good memories.
Yeah, I miss the Cologne Cathedral.
Thank you so much, Brigit.
Thank you
I
all
really
for your attention. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Okay, it was a pleasure.
Pete.
Okay, having had that great start, we now shift to our second participant for the evening, and Pete is one of these guys that is just an absolute pleasure to work with, and he's really come into our club and made a difference in his energy and insight. And I can assure you, he's been a tremendous help to me. So what I'd like to do now is turn this over to Dr. Pete and let him talk about himself and what he does in his own way and in his own words. Pete, welcome.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone, for this amazing opportunity. If it's okay, what I'm going to do is share my screen so you can kind of visualize what we do. And I'm loving the fact that we have a bit of a health food kind of theme going on here today, because the business that I run with my partners is all about the health food businesses. It's helping the Brigits of the world. It's helping the startups. It's helping people retire. It's that great little space that we're all starting to love around wanting to eat sustainably, wanting to eat healthily. Gone are the days of McDonald's and fast food. We want to know what our product is coming from, and working with those providers, those manufacturers, it's an absolute pleasure to work with because they're so passionate about their product, just like you've seen from Brigit. So I love the fact that Brigit said she did her baking course and never worked a day in her life. That's exactly how I feel. It's kind of finding that niche, those people that you love working with, that makes it an absolute pleasure to rock up to work every day. So today, what I'm going to talk to you about is an example client that we've been working with for the last 12 to 18 months. It's probably the best way to explain what Young Professional does and what I do and what my partners do, and this idea of what a complete professional service partner means, and really bringing that together and what makes us a little bit different. So today I'm going to be talking to you about, again, somebody in the gluten-free space. She started about 2004, back before gluten-free, we didn't even realize that was a thing. We couldn't even spell the word celiac. Nobody knew what quinoa was. She was one of the first people in Australia to bring quinoa to market. Now she's pretty prolific. She's in most of the independent retailers, your Harris Farms, a lot of your bulk food providers, not really in the Coles and Woolworths space, and there's a reason for that, but mostly because that they try to bring their own version in, which is always, if you've ever tried some of the gluten-free pastas type thing, which is what she works in, they're a little bit stodgy. And she also does some international stuff. So she's gone from everything to do with working out her garage, bringing, importing stuff, to getting a warehouse, getting a sales team, the joys and the burdens and the love and the laughter and everything in between of growing your business. However, when we started speaking to her about kind of 12 to 18 months ago, first and foremost, she was massively burnt out. As an owner, she was going, why am I doing this? She used to be a lawyer. She left the corporate world because she wanted to do something that she was passionate about. She was stressed and burnt out. Unfortunately, her team were really pretty caustic as well. There was I love to say there was a love-hate relationship, but it was a hate-hate relationship within her team and between the sales and the warehousing side of things. And the business had kind of stagnated because of that. So she was looking at the idea of, well, I want to hand this over to my kids eventually. I want to buy another house. I want to buy another car. What is going on with my business? I'm working so hard, but I just don't seem to be getting anywhere. And so what did Elm do? In the past 12 months, you can see some stats there on the bottom right-hand corner. Now, I'm not making this up. I can show you the results. A small increase in top line, given the current corona situation, this probably makes sense. Sales are starting to slow down. But what we have done is significantly changed her gross profits. In other words, the direct cost, but also what she banks, that net profit, a 400% increase in her net profit. So that's materially changed her life from this time last year to where we are now. She has really got a clear direction now, buying that second house, buying that brand new car, delivering a business over to her kids that is sustainable. And for me, sure, it's good to have these numbers, but that for me is why I rock up to work every day, to be able to see that joy and the smile on her face to kind of go. She uses the term boringly predictable. Her business is now boringly predictable, just doing its thing. There's no headaches, there's no stress, and that's amazing transformation to have seen. So that all looks good on paper, a little bit about the business, a little bit about kind of where we started, and a little bit about the results. But how do we get there? And this is where I really want to kind of go through what Elm does, my team does. So I mentioned before the idea of a complete professional service partner. And essentially what Elm does is come in and be that full leadership team, that full management team. For this particular client, we came in and we led their sales function. We took over their finance function. We run their marketing. We help out with their supply chain and logistics. We've got HR and legal on tap to work through some issues. And of course, we helped her with governance. So we came in and did all that boringly business stuff that she didn't want to do, created processes, took all that responsibility from her, helped her personally, helped her business, and then of course helped with some of those financials that you saw before. So that's what makes us different. If you're familiar with the small business space, previously you would have to go to each individual person for that. You'd have to go to a separate marketing person. You have to go to a separate, lawyer. You have to go to a separate finance person, and they wouldn't talk. What we do is bring them all together. So let me jump into a little bit more detail. And as we go through, feel free to kind of just sing out and ask any questions when we go through. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions at the end. So I'm going to start off with the sales side of things, because in this space, a lot of people think that their issues is around sales. So what do we actually do in that space there? So one of the first things we did was set goals. Now, you probably hear a lot about people setting goals, but what you find, especially if you have sales reps on the ground, they can be a little bit creative with what they do. So we started creating a cadence around what they need to achieve and delivering that. And you can see there on the charts on the right-hand side around some of the results that we actually achieved. You can see, that, for example, the top 10 customers, even just by having that goal and having that focus, we have significantly increased that top line, that sales, just by wrapping some of that accountability. The second thing is we've started getting 2 to 3 new stores per week. Now that's a little bit of us knocking on doors, but it's also people are starting to find out how amazing our product is, and they're actually contacting us. So for me, that's a pretty exciting journey. The next bit, I spoke about the kind of the space that they work in. They either work in to get you kind of the Harris Farms, but also your little kind of deli organic stores, your C&D clients. So we actually segmented that and created specific campaigns and specific strategies to love and cherish those different clients. How you deal with a Harris Farm, of course, is going to be very different than a local health food store. And probably the other bit there I just want to call out before I start moving on is we separated out a field sales role. Those people that would visit the stores, speak to store manager, ask around what trends that they're seeing, to actually someone who's just taking sales orders. She's on the phone. Brigit, you might have experienced somebody kind of picks up the phone and says, "Could I have X amount of order?" Then there's all that paperwork. That's what we did. We outsourced all that type of stuff there. And the best thing is we could then wrap some processes around that. So what we started doing is going, well, actually, we can use some insights to say, hey, guess what? Last month you ordered 4 loaves, but you're only ordering 3 this month. Did you want to order that extra loaf, or can I upskill and cross-sell? Hey, there's this new offer that we're doing. And so we can then help our customers by providing a better service to them over and above the kind of knocking on doors and through that field servicing side of things. So that's how we took over the sales department. HR and legal. Now, I've combined these because you can imagine where I'm kind of going on through here. There's a lot of people and legal issues here. So when we first, like I mentioned at the start, when we first came into the business, there was a lot of tension within the business. So our HR and our legal guy, you can see there at the top here, Paul's our principal in charge of HR and Jahan's our fantastic lawyer. We went through two redundancy processes. So essentially we took that away from the owner and led the entire process on her behalf. You can imagine how much stress that took from the owner, from having to sit down and do that one-on-one, compared to giving it to a professional who's done that 1,000 times before. We've done a heap of recruiting for her, in terms of running those interviews, finding those right candidates, doing all that screening before she kind of makes the ultimate decision. And then also there was a bit of a confidential thing here where we had a compensation matter. And again, that's a very complex matter. But again, our team at Elm did all the heavy lifting behind the scenes and basically reported back to the owner about that. So we took the stress and the strain and actually came up with options around how we'd approach that. And again, that's the difference of Elm and coming together as that complete professional service provider. The second bit was, some of you might be familiar or might have heard of our mate Xander, who's been supporting the club in their zero and their transformation. Well, he's also now working with this client here. So things like fixing up your margins, making sure we've got really accurate data so we can make those sales decisions or make those targeting decisions. He's also then become the entire outsourced finance team. So he does accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll. He reconciles bank accounts every 24 hours. Now, I can guarantee there's no one in this room whose accountant is doing that. It's almost near real-time finances. So if you want to find out how much stock you can purchase, or if you want to find out whether you want to draw down anything, it's live. And that's the power of what Xander's doing with Elm. And the other big thing that we're finding, Brigit, it's great that you've got e-commerce site because people pay up front. But when you start dealing with retailers, you get a lot of people who you send an invoice to, and then you get that age debtors, all those people kind of not paying their bills and all that kind of jazz. So we've actually created a process where every Monday morning, we get a full list of who's not paid and how we're going to chase them up, just to help on the cash flow. And straight away, I believe that brought in about 150K to our cash flow, just by staying on top of that. So very small kind of initiatives, but it obviously makes everything add up. Last little bit here is brand and marketing. So there's a couple of different dimensions we're talking on here, and this is very much an evolving beast as we go through, because from the business side of things, we had to get the finances right, the people right, the sales right, before we can start jumping into the really exciting marketing stuff around, rebranding and packaging and things like that. So we did little simple things like creating a brand Bible, kind of that single document, which is, this is what the logo looks like. These are our color schemes. This is how we produce content. We updated all the websites. So we've got stockists on all the websites. We've got really slick, professional looking ones. Not quite as slick as yours, Brigit, but they're getting there. And the other thing we also did is started getting some cadence around the social media. So this idea on the first of the month, we look forwards and go, all right, it's Celiac Week coming up in X months time. Let's start our campaigns in advance. Or, hey, look, it's winter. People would commonly eat a lot more pasta during winter. What promotions do we need to do? So we're looking advanced to that. And what we then get is on the fourth week, we create all that content ready for approval. So it's this nice little cadence. It's not the owner sitting down and crafting Instagram posts and doing all that campaign planning. It's us as a leadership team doing the heavy lifting in the background, coming to her with options and approval. And lastly, I'm not going to bore you, but this is my baby. So I really bring in the governance and the operational side of things. So this particular client gets products from Bolivia, Spain, other Latin American countries, brings it into Australia, does all your quarantine testing and things like that. So what we did there was really start simplifying what that process looks like. Understanding that so we can stay in stock we don't have to throw away anything because they can be perishable products. Brigit, obviously bakery it's got a shelf life. Other products have that too, so you don't want to order too much stock, which then you have to throw out, which means it's throwing away money. We also documented our processes. So because we've seen such a huge growth, what we wanted to do, particularly in the warehouse, was make it so anybody off the street can come in and work with us. So we created a whole list of really simple processes around how do we get an order, pack an order, send it out the door. Just those really simple things. And now we've actually got 2 extra people in the warehouse to help us with that, when previously there was just 1, because we've grown that much. And actually the training's been really simple. They've walked in within a day, they're already up to speed. The other thing is upskilling our warehouse staff. We know in this business that our staff are our people. So it's not just a matter of rocking up every day, clocking in and clocking out. We actually work with them to say, where do they want to be? What are their career objectives? So we've got 2 junior staff, warehouse assistants, and we've sponsored them to both get their forklift license. So again, if they wanted to leave us in the future date, they've got a transferable skill. And the warehouse manager, rather than just kind of looking after a warehouse, we've actually started bringing him into the bigger business conversation. He's coming into our management meetings and talking about stock and talking about what's on his plate. So he's part of the business, and he's feeling a little bit different than just being in the warehouse in high vis. And the last thing here you can see at the bottom is what we call a management operating rhythm, just a drumbeat on how the business functions. So what we've done there, we at the Monday morning, we have a start of week, an SOW huddle, where our sales rep jump on the call, our warehouse guys jump on the call, our owner jumps on a quick 15-minute call just to say, hey, what's happening this week? All right, we're getting Woolworths orders, so therefore it's going to be a really big next 24 hours. Do we need overtime? No, we don't. All good. We've then got a weekly management meeting where we as Elm can take the owner away and start really jumping on top of those more middle management. What's our sales targets? How's our KPIs looking like for our warehouse? And then other bits around monthly meetings, for example, your campaign planning, your strategic planning and things like that. So it's a full gamut of everything you need to run a business. And essentially that's how we manage to achieve those results, by essentially being that the business that you want to do. It gives her the results that she wants, and she can focus on the things that she loves. So that's a little bit around Elm. I think I've scooted through that pretty quickly, but I'll love to kind of open the floor for any questions there.
Pete, if I may.
Yeah, sure can.
You're outstanding and so professional. Thank you. What size revenues would you need to have to bring your team on board? Like, obviously,
sure.
We're not looking at mum and pop businesses. We're looking at a reasonable size revenue base, are we?
Yeah. So typically starting around the $1.5 million turnover, because that's when they're starting to ask questions around, should I get an accounts clerk in? Should I get a field service, a field rep in? They're starting to think about more complex kind of employment strategies. But having said that, we're actually starting to work almost pro bono, or almost, I think we're probably going to get into an equity arrangement with a startup. They've got an amazing new product. The 2 owners are really passionate. So I think what Elm going to do is, rather than coming in as a service, we're actually going to go in and buy 20-30% of the business, and our contribution will be to help that business grow. So we get to take that business on and help that small business. So that's a bit of an idea that we're playing with. If it succeeds, great. Otherwise, we'll keep on focusing on that kind of minimum $1.5 million turnover.
So go back to the first model. So for me if I have a $1.5 million turnover, I'm in a mess.
Yep.
I see what you can do. You've sold me on it. What sort of fees do you charge? A percentage or a set figure, or is it time-based? How does that work?
Sure. So first and foremost, we're here to build 40-year relationships. So the fee that we charge is a monthly fixed arrangement. And what we'll traditionally do is either one of 2 things. We'll be, for example, we're working with another client who wants finances, sales, and operations. So we come in with those 3 targets. We understand what's in the business. Xander and I, for example, spent yesterday going through their financials to try and make it look as though we come in at least 20% cheaper than what they've got at the moment. So, for example, they might have a part-time sales clerk rep and a part-time operations person. So we might look at that and go, right, we're going to come in cheaper than what you've already got because we can, because we've got systems and processes already set up. Conversely, I love your idea, Ken, of the idea of a percentage fee. That's something that we have played around with. We have introduced that to clients, but the reaction we're getting is a little bit too risky at the moment. They'll much prefer to have that kind of monthly arrangement.
Yeah,
So at the moment, it's anywhere between about $3-4 grand for a couple of services, all the way up. If you want everything, it's about $9,900 a month, which is actually pretty cheap. You couldn't get a GM full time for that.
You pay your consultants or your team, as you call it.
Yep.
Pro rata on the contribution in hours or something, is it?
We have various arrangements. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So, for example, with the finance, standard bookkeeping is more of a retainer, so that's really easy. Marketing is about the same. It's normally your social media is a retainer, and then if there's any extra projects, for example, we're working on doing some rebranding of their packaging, so that will be an add-on because it's a little bit out of scope. Conversely, with some of the other professional services, we have a bit of a slush fund as and when needed.
Thank you.
Brigit, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation, and thank you, Ken, for asking all those questions. That is very informative. I mean, at the moment, I'm a one-woman show, and I will need a couple more months before I've hit my 1.5 million revenue, but I'll get there. And I mean, I have a double master in economics, business administration, marketing, finance, and accounting. I can do all those things, but I don't want to. I want to bake. So
exactly.
You will be the perfect. We will be the perfect combination once my revenue has gone up, and it will get there. No doubt about that. Yep. At the moment, I'll do all this that you described. I'll do it all by myself. Yeah.
And it's interesting you mentioned that the lady that we're working with, she's absolutely overjoyed because we said we're going to fire her in the next 18 months out of the ownership, so she can start, because where her passion is to go and visit local African communities to find out the amazing stories that the farmers have. She loves jumping around the world, so we're going to fire her and put her on a plane twice a year to go around visiting and finding their next new product. And she's really excited by that.
And have someone else do the things that we don't want to do.
Right.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly. Any other questions?
Can I jump in with a simple question, Pete?
Sure.
Let's suppose that I'm a business that wants to develop my online marketing. Can I come in and basically buy one slice of the pie?
We won't normally do that because the ethos that I work in is bringing people together. Is more, the sum of the parts is bigger than the whole. Is that all right? Well, whatever the saying goes. I'm happy to refer to my partners because my partners all have their own businesses as well, and that's very deliberate. So if you say, "Hey, Pete, listen, I really want to build out my website," you can go and speak to Marzec. That's great. But then if you start, you could then go to Xander and all that kind of jazz for you could do it yourself. But the issue is you're still paying the same amount, but you're not getting all the value add of getting the team together.
Yeah, I understand that.
Very good.
Right, yeah.
Pete, do you see any use in your sort of business? I have a friend who's had a couple of restaurants. He's got a very good one in Newtown. It's a vegan restaurant. He's opened a vegan supermarket, and I think it has franchise potential. Is that the sort of thing you do, or are you purely running a one business deal?
No. So I think it's a slightly different scope. I think there's a different skill set around running a retail store and having feet on the ground and managing staff. Where our sweet spot is more the suppliers towards that, helping manufacturers, helping those distributors to get products into those stores versus kind of the actual running of the stores themselves. That's not really my sweet spot. But yeah, interesting concept. And if they're looking for vegan produce, happy to make an introduction.
Oh, well, he does that. He does that anyway.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'll arrange a meeting. I think he has a young man with great potential. He's owned several restaurants in the city. This one's been gapping them all since he opened it about 18 months ago. Fantastic. Does a couple of turnovers a night, seats 130 people in the restaurant, and he's opened the separate premises behind his existing ones, this vegan supermarket, where he'll be running a small kitchen there and developing products. So it could be a worthwhile thing for me to talk to you about.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Can I just say, Ray, I would like the contact. I'll send him some free, my loaves are vegan, so I want to get them into restaurants at some point.
Good, okay. I'll
Might try,
Good.
if I'd be interested.
Great. Hey, it's all coming together.
Yeah, I was going to say, now you're starting to see the kind of synergies that we can have by being Rotarians and having evenings like this. You know, first of all, let me say that I had no idea there was any kind of a connection between Pete and Brigit. But as it turns out, there's a wonderful connection. And now we all know what you all do, and we can bring our skills and our contacts to you as well. So I'm just quite floored at how this evening has unfolded. And let me say also, fellow Rotarians, I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Pete. You now see the direction that our club is taking, our strategic plan, the thinking behind it. Some of the players in Elm Professional are the ones that are actually working with and helping our club. And it's just good to have a confirmation of the professionalism behind the way that we have been able to evolve as a club. Believe me, it has been in large measure to a lot of the younger Rotarians, and Elm Professional has been in the deep, dark background, but we owe them a good shout out and a vote of thanks. So Pete, thanks very much for the evening. It's been really, really good. And let me say that after hearing you talk, I know how to relate to you much better now.
Thank you very much. You're very kind.
Yeah, always good. No, always good. Always good. So does anybody have any parting comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Pete, just a question. Just looking at your model, 1.5 million turnover.
Yep.
So you're looking at, what's that, 29,000 a week. And if I just did my maths on it, it's roughly your fee about 9,900. So that's about 8 or 9%. Is that about right? What your fee is per month?
So we would probably do it in stages. So for example, with this client, we started out at a smallish, and we will grow as they grow. So that's why I'm here. I believe that the relationship that I'm building at the moment is going to change over the next 15 years. So if I rewind the start, what for example Xander was offering was only a fraction of where we are now, because what they needed to do was get on top of their debtors and get on top of their data. So then we grow, and then we receive results, and then we realize, oh wow, we've now got these added complications. Okay, let's think about that as well. Can we afford it? And then we grow as they grow. Rather than, you're right, no one's going to buy me if it's 4%, and I'll tell them not to buy myself, right? Because I've got integrity. And that might not be what they need. They might need something very different. And that's where we're a firm believer of a self-funding model. We come in, we do improvements, and that improvement funds other improvements.
Okay.
Great model.
Great question.
Very good.
Judith,
Okay.
was there a question?
Judith.
I want to say something. I want to say that in 1905, Paul Harris and his 3 business associates founded Rotary on business networking. And it was so nice to see that in action tonight. Congratulations, Pete, and congratulations, Brigit. Tremendous presentations. We've learned a lot about both of you, and I'm sure the networking will work very well. And just before I go, Ronald, thank you talking about the Rabbitohs, because I was barracking for them and somebody said to me, why are you barracking for the Rabbitohs? And I said, because Ronald wants them to win. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea. Well done.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let me say this has been once again, an absolutely fantastic evening. I want to thank everybody. We're enjoying this, having great fellowship and networking as the Rotary tradition really was founded upon, as Judith so graciously brought to our attention. I want to remind you that next week we're having our birthday party. I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't know, Brigit, maybe we'll bake a cake or something, but we'll figure it out as we go along. And once again, I want to thank everybody for a fantastic evening. If we could we bring up the four-way test? There we go. And Kenneth, would you be so kind as to lead us as the Sergeant at Arms in the four-way test this evening?
Okay, I'll say it and then I'll invite you all to say it after me. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
It's all concerned.
Will it bring goodwill and better friendships?
Will it
Build goodwill, better friendships.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Rotary.
Rotary,
Australia,
And
and the Queen. Absolutely.
Yes. Good night. That was great.
That was,
Thanks,
yeah.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Steve. Bye, Alan.
Bye.
Thanks, Ron.